I think it makes viable sense what the gentleman was saying on the video, as far as um, that sometimes we end up creating the same problems that we complain about.
Mhm.
I definitely agree to that. I still wrestle personally. What necessarily is the most effective, younger or older? Because, like I said before, if you start younger, you have a chance to build with somebody through adversity because both y'all typically ain't got nothing. So you're more than likely to reason that you can work with this person because both y'all ain't got nothing. So y'all have more likelihood of being on the same level. But if you start younger, you have more growing, you have more shifts in your thought processes every 2 to 5 years. So then you may be completely different people 5 years from that point, and now you don't want to be with that person.
And
But
then when
then,
he divorces you, then you won't feel bad because y'all, you know that y'all worked together and it wasn't it wasn't at the end. You didn't show up at the end. I'm just
yeah,
joking.
well, and then you got the flip side. Okay, well, now you have the conventional resources and the experience to now be like, all right, well, now I can do this thing a little bit better than I could when I was younger. But then if you have a woman at the same age, now she also has a similar idea of how the world works and how things will go. So now you both started with nothing. If you would have started younger, y'all both started with nothing. But now when you get older, y'all both got something. So now you feel like you got more bargaining chips because now both of y'all think that y'all know what's going on and that, oh, you should listen about this and you should do this. So then, because you've been largely in charge of yourself, you're more than likely to protect yourself more so than protect the things that you guys are trying to build together. So I still don't 100% know what is the most likely successful relationship as far as going with the biological idea, which is later, or going with the risk, the high risk of going younger in the hopes that the adversity will build a stronger bond long term.
The Nation of Islam says half your age plus 7 after 18. So half your age plus 7.
Hold on.
So
So
it,
you said after 18?
yeah, so everybody of legal age, but half your age plus 7. So that will put you in a position where you would at least have 3 to 4 years, at the very minimum, I believe, 3 to 4 years of experience, and that life experience can help a whole lot. It's hard to lead somebody when they believe that they have a better understanding of how things should go to you. That's going to create a contentious relationship, even with a non-contentious person.
I agree. I'm trying to do the math. So, okay, so if you're 35 years old, half of that is about 17 and a half. So we're going to say 18, right? Then plus 7. So
So
that's 25.
26, yeah, 20, yeah, 25, 26 with a 35-year-old. So in that situation, she would probably get the man that she can admire, look up to, and he would get somebody who would be in a state of beauty at that point that would be, you know, beneficial to him, so he could see. Because one of the other things that men complain about is that the women that they want when they wanted them, like when, because in this space they quantify a period of a young lady's life as her prime or whatever, right? So within that prime, one of the main things they complain about is that she spent that with men that were not them, and that seems to be a big point of contention. So I think that solves for that as well, right? So it makes a lot of sense on a lot of levels.
I think that that's
Well,
a decent a 26 and a 35-year-old. I don't think that that's a bad. I think that that's a
I
decent.
li- I like that a lot actually.
That's a decent. The problem is this is the problem. When women look for men, they look for different things. The women, it's not as easy as, oh, here's this 35-year-old who's available. It may be that easy for men. It's not that easy for women. In that case, then women would just choose the men who are, 35 right now, ain't, who looking for a relationship. It's just not that easy. Does that make
yeah,
sense?
Yeah,
yeah.
well, I think part of the problem is because at that age we're not necessarily looking for the man either. in this day and age. I think,
This day and age, for real.
yeah, I think years ago, yes, but in this day and age, they're not even looking either. They start looking when they're hitting their 30s, or late 20s to early 30s, because that's been the average. I think the average for women in America is about 29 when they're
Yeah.
getting married. So
But
that's
that's why I had to say they actually are looking at 26. But I mean, I think it's mixed, at least. At the very least, it's a mixed amount because the people who are getting married at 29 met their husband at 24 or 25.
Mhm.
Right? They didn't meet him at 29. But what I will ask, just the ladies on the panel, since I have you, do you think women would start seeking marriage? Because we know that what's been told by mom and grandma, girl, get your education, do what you got to do, all this stuff. We know all of that modern stuff. But if in hindsight, if women knew how hard it was to find a suitable man into your 30s, do you think they would have started taking it seriously earlier?
I think that, and listen, I think that, I look at that, and what I do is I go back to homecoming. And there's a great deal of people who are married to people we went to school with. So it's a great deal of people who did just that. They had those boyfriends, they married, a lot, and at least at my school. I can't speak of anybody else's school, and they're still married. So maybe I didn't do it, but a great deal of women did do it, and they are still married to these men.
So I'll say that you're right, Trigger Mike, because you start to see women once they get into their 30s, and then as they kind of roll into their mid 30s, late 30s, they start to become a lot more cooperative. They start to become a lot softer. They start to become a lot friendlier because they realize that those are the things that are going to attract the man that they're looking for. Whereas in their younger years, they do opt into being cantankerous because they're not taking marriage so seriously. They're not being the wife that a man is looking for because they feel like they have time. Because I want to focus on establishing myself. I want to build up my safety net in case things go wrong. Like, there's a multitude of reasons. There isn't just one reason why women aren't taking it so seriously as young as they used to. I think it looks a little bit different for different people, but most women do regret it because they do make the adjustments they need to once they're past what the internet deems as their prime.
Yeah.
So
I
so a
want
lot.
Hey Marcus, before you get into this, uh I want to come to the defense of myself and Trigger Mike. We get a bad rep for a lot of things because it seems like we're promoting something just because we're acknowledging the realities of certain things. My
Mhm.
man has literally promoted marriage and he promotes marriage all the time, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even though he's the gender war general, right? For entertainment purposes, sure. Why not? But the thing is that oftentimes, even in my discussions and discord with people, it's not that I agree or I think that people should do X, Y, Z. I'm I actually can acknowledge the same thing Mark has been doing all day, which is acknowledging a reality that exists outside of his sphere of experience. And that oftentimes the reason why this conversations or our conversations fall on deaf ears is because people don't feel acknowledged because our experiences and our thought processes are vastly different than the people because we just say, oh, y'all not living in the real world because we looking at it from our quote unquote real world, which is only a piece of the real world. When you got all these people watching your content and watching your conversations and be like, no, that's not my experience. And they're also part of the real world. And the real world is much bigger than our own limited perspective.
100% agree.